The United States Supreme Court's decisions ripple far beyond America's borders, influencing not just the legal system, but the very fabric of society itself. Every ruling, every opinion, sends shockwaves through communities, businesses, and governments around the world. The court's judgments shape law, power, and society, setting precedents that will be studied and debated for generations. The October 2024 term delivered a series of rulings that will fundamentally reshape the American landscape for decades to come, altering the way government operates and how citizens interact with it. While many anticipated a landmark Second Amendment decision, the court's real bombshells this term redefine the mechanics of American government in ways few expected, shifting the balance of power in subtle but profound ways. These rulings touch everything from the power and reach of federal agencies, those vast bureaucracies that regulate everything from the environment to the economy, to the rights of ordinary citizens to challenge their government in court, ensuring that the voices of the people can still be heard in the halls of power. This term was about the fundamental structure of power in America, questioning who gets to decide the rules and how those rules are enforced. The court's choices have immediate and far-reaching consequences for businesses, environmental policy, healthcare, and the broader economy, affecting millions of lives in ways both visible and invisible. For everyday Americans, these rulings change how powerful institutions are held accountable and how individuals can seek justice or redress when they feel wronged. The justices are engaged in a profound and ongoing conversation about the country's future, weighing the meaning of the Constitution in a rapidly changing world. By turning away from high-profile gun rights cases, the court shifted its focus to the administrative state, the vast, often unseen network of federal agencies that shape nearly every aspect of daily life, from the air we breathe to the taxes we pay. The story of this term is one of subtle but seismic shifts, with power being rebalanced and recalibrated for the unique challenges of the 21st century, as technology, politics, and society evolve. The drama of the Supreme Court affects everyone, influencing the air we breathe, the products we buy, the way we vote, and the opportunities available to future generations, and, perhaps most importantly, the rights we exercise as citizens, rights that are constantly being interpreted, protected, or challenged. In this series, we'll unpack the key moments of the 2024 term, what the court did, what it didn't, and why every decision matters, not just for lawyers and politicians, but for all Americans. The impact of these rulings is just beginning to unfold, setting the stage for legal and political battles that will shape the nation for years, if not decades, to come. The story of the Supreme Court is, in many ways, the story of America itself, constantly evolving, always consequential. All eyes were on the Supreme Court for a major Second Amendment showdown. Two cases, challenging assault weapons bans and high-capacity magazine restrictions, were poised to reshape gun laws. Gun rights advocates hoped the court would strike down these restrictions after the 2022 Bruin decision. But, in a surprise move, the justices declined to hear either case, leaving lower court rulings in place. This denial means state-level bans in places like California and New York remain intact. The court gave no explanation, fueling speculation on both sides of the gun debate. For now, the conservative majority court is not eager to re-enter the political firestorm over guns. Legal experts suggest the justices want more lower court decisions before stepping in again. The Supreme Court's decision signals that defining the Second Amendment's full scope will be a marathon, not a sprint. The rejected Second Amendment cases began with states passing strict gun control after mass shootings. Lawmakers argued these bans were vital for public safety. Gun rights groups claimed they violated constitutional rights. The legal battles created a split among federal appeals courts. A key reason the Supreme Court often steps in. The 2022 Bruin decision changed the legal landscape, requiring gun laws to align with historical tradition. Suddenly, lawyers had to become historians, digging through centuries-old statutes. The assault weapon ban cases were the first big test of this new framework. By declining to hear them, the court left conflicting lower court rulings in place. Millions of Americans now face legal uncertainty, with gun rights varying by state and circuit. The court's decision to wait suggests it wants more time for lower courts to grapple with the new test. The road to clarity on the Second Amendment remains long and uncertain. While sidestepping the highly anticipated gun rights case, the Supreme Court instead turned its attention to the fundamental question of how much power federal agencies should have in interpreting and enforcing the law. In the landmark case of Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raimondo, the court made a historic move by overturning the Chevron doctrine, a legal principle that had shaped American regulatory law for over 40 years by requiring courts to defer to agency interpretations of ambiguous statutes. Now, instead of relying on agency experts, federal judges themselves will have the ultimate authority to interpret federal law, fundamentally changing how regulations are reviewed and enforced. In another significant decision, the court limited the ability of district judges to issue nationwide injunctions, meaning such sweeping orders can now only apply to the parties directly involved in a case, rather than affecting the entire country. The justices also clarified the rules around who has the right to sue the government, affirming that businesses and individuals who are directly harmed by federal regulations have legal standing to challenge them in court. However, the court made it more difficult for states to bring lawsuits against federal policies when their alleged injuries are only indirect or speculative, raising the bar for state challenges. Collectively, these decisions represent a dramatic shift in the balance of power, moving authority away from federal agencies and toward the judiciary, restricting the reach of court orders, and refining who can bring legal challenges against the government. Justice Gorsuch, writing for the majority, emphasized, "It is the role of the courts to say what the law is," underscoring the judiciary's renewed centrality in interpreting statutes. This term marked a forceful reassertion of judicial authority over the administrative state, signaling a new era in the relationship between the courts and federal agencies. The court's decisions have fundamentally reordered the structure of American governance, with effects that will ripple through every level of government. The consequences of these rulings will be felt not just in Washington, but across government agencies, businesses, and society as a whole, shaping how laws are made, challenged, and enforced for years to come. The court's decisions have profound political consequences, especially for the presidency. Overturning Chevron weakens a key tool presidents use to implement policy through agencies. Now, every major regulation is more vulnerable to being struck down by judges. This shift raises the stakes for judicial appointments and intensifies political battles over the courts. Limiting universal injunctions, however, gives some power back to the White House, making it harder for opponents to freeze an entire agenda with one lawsuit. The result, presidents can act more quickly, but their policies face piecemeal legal challenges nationwide. This could create a chaotic patchwork of rulings. Lawmakers must now write laws with extreme precision, leaving less room for agency interpretation. The court has told the political branches, "Make your laws clear, or risk losing control to the judiciary." The game of power in Washington has changed. For American businesses, the end of Chevron marks a new era of regulatory uncertainty and opportunity. The Supreme Court's decision has fundamentally shifted the balance of power between federal agencies and the courts, creating a landscape where the rules of the game are being rewritten in real time. Companies now have a better chance of winning court battles against agency rules they see as overreach. Legal teams are already strategizing to challenge regulations that once seemed untouchable, hoping to carve out more favorable conditions for their industries. This will likely spark a surge in litigation, as industries challenge both new and old regulations. Courts across the country are preparing for an influx of cases, and legal uncertainty is becoming the new normal. Large corporations may benefit from their resources and legal teams, but smaller businesses could face confusion and unpredictability, struggling to keep up with rapidly changing rules and the costs of legal battles. The court's decisions on standing and jurisdiction provide clearer rules for who can sue and where, but navigating these new legal pathways will require expertise and vigilance. EPA challenges, for example, must now be fought regionally, not just in Washington, D.C. This decentralization means that outcomes may vary widely depending on where a case is heard. This could lead to a patchwork of regulations across the country, with different standards and interpretations emerging in different regions, making compliance even more complex. Businesses must invest more in legal expertise and lobby Congress for clearer laws. The need for proactive legal and legislative strategies has never been greater. The relationship between business and bureaucracy is now more adversarial and court-centered, with every major regulation potentially ending up in a legal showdown. The long-term result may be less regulation, but the path will be marked by legal chaos, uncertainty, and a constant battle for clarity. The American economy faces a period of profound uncertainty as businesses, regulators, and courts all adapt to this new regulatory reality. unsure of what the future will bring. Supreme Court decisions land in a nation already divided, often amplifying social and cultural tensions. By avoiding the Second Amendment cases, the court left gun debates raging in state legislatures and lower courts. Rulings on agency power threaten regulations that protect public health, safety, and the environment. This pits industry interests against public welfare, turning regulatory debates into proxy wars over government's role. Shifting power from agencies to judges can erode public trust in expert institutions. Scientific consensus and public health directives may now be viewed through a political lens, deepening polarization. The rulings empower states, businesses, and individuals, but risk fragmenting national standards. The court hasn't settled these debates. It's opened a new front in America's culture war. Legal experts agree. The 2024 term was a turning point for administrative law. Some, like Jonathan Turley, say overturning Chevron restores balance between the branches and limits agency overreach. Others, like Lawrence Tribe, warn the court is crippling the government's ability to address complex problems. Critics argue judges lack the expertise to decide technical issues, risking poorly informed outcomes. On guns, experts like Adam Winkler see the court playing the long game, waiting to see how lower courts handle Bruin's fallout. The consensus: a confident conservative majority is methodically reshaping American law. They're bold on government structure, cautious on explosive issues like guns. The long-term impact of this project will shape every future president and Congress. The Supreme Court's 2024 term has fundamentally rebalanced power in Washington. By sidestepping gun rights, the court delivered calculated bombshells at the heart of the administrative state. Judges are now more powerful, agencies weaker, and the rules for challenging government have changed. The end of agency deference and limits on nationwide injunctions promise more legal battles and uncertainty. For businesses and society, this means a period of instability as rules are challenged and rewritten. The court's influence on American life is profound, shaping rights, safety, and the economy. The future of governance is being forged in the Supreme Court's chambers, not just at the ballot box. The public debate over America's future is just beginning. Your voice matters in what comes next.